Welcome to The Exhale. I'm Dr. Maureen Magauran. After 20 years in holistic psychiatry, I now guide ambitious women through deeper work around leadership, visibility, self-trust, and embodied power. This is a space for women ready to lead from a more grounded, fully expressed place. Let's begin. This podcast episode speaks to what happens when things don't go as planned. We have so many ideas, so many things that we want to do, and oftentimes it doesn't work or it doesn't land that way. And I've had a lot of that. I call them leadership initiations, where there's a sense of sort of being brought into an experience, having a different outcome that I wanted, and then how to frame that and how to work with it. Being in the entrepreneurial space, there's often a lot of pressure. I'm sure if you're involved in this, you know, around a launch or bringing out an idea and this expectation about how it's going to work out. And one of the biggest things that I've seen and received in this time of doing this work is it's the idea that we don't need to control the outcome, that things are happening, that we engage and we generate ideas, events, experiences. But as I talked in the previous podcast about receiving and being open to what's happening, first of all, as purely information, and second of all, as that things can work out maybe differently than you expected. When I started to do these moon circles on the beach, when I first moved to Plum Island, Massachusetts, and I was kind of nervous about it. You know, I'd never done anything like that. I'd come out of being a psychiatrist in a small office, you know, working intimately with women, but there was no public-facing aspect to it. I had started to do some in-person talks to connect with people, to let them feel my energy, and that was really nice. And it felt kind of contained because it wasn't recorded; it was intimate. And so when I started to do the full moon circles, I felt a certain vulnerability, like, oh, I don't know if I know what I'm doing kind of thing. And so the first year that I did that, I did them for free. It was very casual. And I was hesitant to lead it. And then the next summer, I had been at a retreat with the business coach. And in a visualization, I just got the message about get on the beach, enjoy the beach, spend time with your family there, like having kind of beach party. And then it came back to me about the moon circles. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this again. And so as a surprise to me, when I did run this moon circle, I had 90 women sign up. There was so much interest. And part of it is because it's a beautiful space. And I was holding this space and I was showing it to women as something that they could come to and be a part of. And on the day of the event, it was interesting. I had bought a dress, which when I bought it actually at the store, like before, a couple months before, I thought, oh, this is what I'm going to wear at the moon circle. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That just kind of landed there. And I wasn't actually sure if I would, but on the day of it, I was like, yes, I'm going to wear it. And when I put the dress on, I had this flash. It was almost like an experience I've had in the past life regression work that I do and that I work with my clients. It was a sense of this past life of being this really powerful feminine leader, more of like a tribal kind of sense, like the sense of outdoors, the beat of the drum, and it just felt really good. And I was kind of landing and standing in that. And then as I was doing the moon circle, which I had called I just called it a full moon ceremony. And I never led ceremonies before. And my intention was really to just bring women together in this beautiful space and to share the impulse that I was feeling around community, about lifting each other up, about taking time, slowing down. And as I looked around the circle, I saw all these women that I didn't really know, but that I had seen online. And all of a sudden I felt really intimidated. It's like, oh, these people actually run ceremony. I've never done this. Do I know what I'm doing? But I kind of just held solid in myself, like, okay, this is what I'm bringing. And I could feel afterwards, first of all, it was a huge success. Everyone loved it. It was a wonderful experience. It was a beautiful night. The sunset was phenomenal. The colors, the sky, connecting with so many beautiful women. But still, there was a part of myself in the back of my head that was giving myself a hard time. Like, oh, I didn't have this whole ceremony thing like nailed down or whatever. And I was, kind of giving myself a hard time. But it's like I was able to kind of step back, and it helped to talk to another female colleague of mine who was there, and she said, "This was so beautiful. I absolutely loved it. I loved how you held the space." And she said, "I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs grow through their experiences." I think she said something like, to have a skin knee and pick themselves up and go again. And I was like, yeah, this is a leadership initiation. I am learning. I will do it different next time. And so every time that I've done them, they've evolved and they've come from more of a place of trust of myself. There's more of a sense of like really taking the time to listen in. What's coming through here? What wants to land? What is the thing? And I had been to another retreat and they had silent disco headphones and we used them outside one night with the fire and I loved them. It was just so cool to have this like immersive sound on your head to be outside with other people, but you didn't really have to talk to other people because they can only hear the headphones. So I bought them. I bought a set of them and I started to integrate them into the moon circle. And the first couple of times I did it, I felt really self-conscious. Like I just thought like, is this, are they feeling this? Is this working? And every time I did it, I just had more and more fun with it. Like I even like heard myself giggling one time on the beach as I was like playing this super cool music. And I could just tell by the body language of the women that they were receiving so much from it. We're standing underneath the full moon at night on the beach, beautiful music playing. I was guiding them through with the microphone into feeling even deeper, like opening to the energy of the full moon and the ocean. And it was just so powerful. I could feel myself giggling. And I realized, that had been a stretch for me. That had been something that I could have, the very first moon circle said like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing this kind of thing. And it wasn't exactly what I expected, but it's like this sense of trusting and evolution and that I don't actually have to control the outcome. Like I can just be present and I can allow the things to come through me, like to channel what needs to be channeled, to hold the space for these women so that they have this opportunity, this really beautiful opportunity. And it's just given me a sense of freedom in terms of, not labeling things in a certain way or not criticizing myself or not getting down on myself because something didn't happen the way that I thought. And today is actually a perfect example. Today is May 17th as I'm recording this, and I had planned a retreat on Plum Island called the Exhale, and I had a lot of interest in it. There were many women who wanted to come. It's meant to be a 4-person retreat. It's a kind of smaller house right on the water. I'm actually looking out the window at the water as we speak. It is so beautiful, the clouds and the sun. And it just turned out that this weekend was really difficult. There are a lot of college graduations. There are a lot of weddings. It's like everyone I know is traveling. And it's also an incredibly beautiful day. And so I realized that the retreat was filling. And rather than kind of going into like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing or people don't want to come, which wasn't the case because there were a lot of people that were like, can you tell me the day of the next one? I want to be there. And it was still creating a momentum and there was still an interest. But this particular day didn't land. And so to me, that was just information. And I thought, okay, well, what do I want to do with this time? I could have switched the date for the weekend rental, but I just kept feeling this thing inside, like, no, don't give up the house. And interestingly, this house is a place that I have lived in before because 3 years ago, before moving out to Plum Island, we were living in another suburb and we had water damage and mold in our house and we had to move out. And it ended up taking like 5 months. It was a crazy story, all the things that happened, which I'll share another day. But we were put up by our insurance company in this house. And it was during the summer, so it was beautiful. But it was actually difficult to get a rental longer term because they were already booked. So we stayed in this particular house for 6 weeks and we really loved it. Like it's really cozy. The location is phenomenal. The stars at night, the sunsets, it's just like a feast of nature. And so I thought, oh, I don't really want to give up this house yet. Let's see what I'll do. And then I thought, okay, let's play with some ideas. So it was the new moon yesterday. So I'd run full moon workshops. So I said, oh, maybe I'll run a new moon workshop. And it was so interesting because again, people were like, I really am interested in this, but I already have plans or I can't do this. And so I thought, okay, again, that weekend isn't landing. And I had a client who'd been interested in coming to the retreat, but wasn't able to commit the whole weekend. So I offered her a VIP day. And again, that didn't land for her for that reason, for whatever reason. She just said, I can't make it that day. And so I decided this is going to be my personal retreat. And so I am in the house and I have been just really enjoying the time with exploring what's coming up in my business, the new moon themes of what am I no longer willing to stand in or to work with? What is the new evolution of me looking like in the next 6 months, which I'm so excited for. I have lots of plans of things that I'm releasing, including this podcast being one of them. And I had my family over. We actually live across the street, so it's not far. Palm Island isn't that big. And we went kayaking yesterday on the water. It was so beautiful. We had a really nice dinner, candlelights, looking at the stars. And we have an opportunity to do that again tonight. And so it's that sense of, it's really easy to be critical on yourself. It's actually a little bit harder to have more flexibility internally, to look for the gold, look for the good, enjoy yourself in the midst of a difficult time or situation. This didn't end up being difficult, but I could have felt it that way. Like I could have given myself a hard time. And one other thing that I've talked a lot about is an autoimmune illness that my kids have been dealing with. It's called PANS and PANDAS. And I did a class on that called Calm in the Storm for moms of kids with PANS and PANDAS. And I really realized that, when we're in the midst of that and when it's really challenging and when they're not feeling well and when there are all these problems, it's this sense of flexibility. It's this sense of lightness. It's an internal grounding. It's expecting things to be okay. And in that space, feeling lightness, feeling joy, maybe even being able to have fun when things are tough, when there's a lot going on. It's a really powerful ability that is so worth creating or bridging or building within yourself. And so I just invite you to lean into that idea and how can you, if there's something that comes up that's challenging, how can you look at it a different way or roll with it or just say, oh, what is actually happening here? What's actually meant to happen? What is coming for me? What is being held for me in the background? And what is it that I can receive? And so it's a sense of not necessarily reacting to the initial piece of news or the initial wave of emotion or whatever it is, but just kind of at this grounded center, holding it all, taking it in, and then having a kind of bird's eye view to oh, actually, this is okay. This weekend has been phenomenal for me. I've had so many downloads, so many insights, so many things are clear. I've mapped out so many things in terms of even the exercise and food and taking care of the dogs, things, as well as my business, as well as this podcast, and just really having fun with it. So I hope that's coming across and that's conveying to you, because life is ultimately, it's really short and we're here for a certain amount of time. And there's a sense of how much can you enjoy it? How much can you create the life that you desire? And recognize with gratitude, I do think that helps a lot to realize there's so much beauty that's here already. We're kind of taught to go after that dangling carrot. It's wait, who made that up? And why do I want that? Is that even a thing? There's so much programming that we've had, that we've grown up with. And, depending on, I think our generation, Gen X, millennials, there's a sense of the way that we've been taught, and it's all constantly shifting. And so it's you can actually choose. You can choose what you believe in. You can choose how you treat yourself. You can choose where you're going and your path and what's coming towards you, but it's really being open to it. So it's so much more than the surface. Just because something doesn't go as planned doesn't mean that it isn't a perfect opportunity. You'll find more reflections, teachings, and deeper conversations inside the Exhale on Substack. And if you're feeling called towards more personalized support, you can book a clarity call through the link in the show notes. I'm so glad you were here. I'll see you next time.